Tony Hawk, great game for skating enthusiasts, but more importantly, Tony Hawk incorporated a real soundtrack in their gameplay.
Tony Hawk really brought the licensed music to the forefront. I mean, with using so many bands, you know, sort of obscure and relatively well-known.
He had some Dead Kennedys, he had some Primus, they had Suicidal Tendencies, some really, like, you know, hardcore stuff.
I think the music enhances the experience. I mean, gets you pumped.
You can't really skate around to a classical soundtrack. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
You're never going to get
We've
as much
tried.
air. Yeah.
Seriously.
It's about skateboarding. Skateboarding is about lifestyle. Lifestyle is enhanced with music, and you have to get it right. You can't get it wrong, and if you get it wrong, people know.
Great game, great soundtrack, and the punk music that was in that soundtrack was kind of the life of these kids, the culture of these kids. These kids would go out in the streets and they would like tear it up, riding skateboards, and that's like kind of the springboard. That's what really set it all off, because now you're seeing a lot of games contain the culture of their players.
Because really, video games are very similar to rock and roll. It's all about scaring your parents. Elvis scared the parents of his time. Alice Cooper scared the parents of his time. Marilyn Manson scared the parents of his time. It's the same with video games. You know, Pong scared the parents of their time.
But Pong was very scary.
Yeah.
You know, basically, like, you go from video games that have some whack-ass sound effects as the theme song, then you go to games where they incorporate actual songs and soundtracks, and then you've come full circle to video games where music is the main premise of the game, such as Karaoke Revolution, Dance Dance Revolution.
Dance Dance Revolution is this bizarre religious cult where people stand on a plastic mat and jump up and down wildly in conjunction with cymbals and tunes coming out of their TV sets.
You have the feet positions are on the floor, and it shows you what moves to make, and you have to do it at a certain time of the song.
If you see a guy in the arcade who's like jumping up and down on one of these Dance Dance Revolution machines at like 1,000,000 miles an hour, don't be that guy. It's a skill set, but it's not the skill set for you. I'm just saying that.
So in 2000, you had the new PlayStation come out, and the line between video games and music has become totally blurred.
The thing could play CDs, it could play DVDs, and of course it could play video games as well, so it's supposed to take over your whole home entertainment system.
There's even a game called Guitar Hero, where the controller is a guitar. So after like a week of being locked in your room playing Guitar Hero, you're like Jimmy Page.
So we were playing Guitar Hero. It was a good time, but I was getting all guyish about it. I had the guitar controller in my hand, I was thrashing on it.
Full rockstar posturing.
Full rockstar posturing.
It was.
And that's cool because, you know, some kid who plays video games might get that and say, I want to play guitar for real. And, you know, it's nice when you have a reversal of influence. A video game can influence you to be a musician. You know, it's cool.
I know you could play Ramones on Guitar Hero, but what do you think Joey would think of that?
I don't think he'd care. I think he'd be like, whatever, doesn't matter anyway.
Apparently, there's some groups that use the Nintendo Game Boy and they reprogram it just to make music from it.
It's a global phenomenon with people all over Europe actually battling with their Game Boys on stage while they're creating music at the same time.
You know, that's what happens. You give kids too much free time and bam, now they're inside the machine and now they're making their own music with it.
There's this one girl, Bubbly Fish, she's pretty much at the head of this fad right now.
The video game music was defined because of the sound, but nowadays, since the sound quality is so great, there's no difference between the video game and just regular pop music or cinematic music. I think that's why we love those video game music, those the Zelda soundtracks or Donkey Kong, because they had such a distinctive sound to it.
Video Games Live is a nationwide tour of an orchestra. Started by Tommy Tallarico, who did Advent Rising, and Jack Wall, who was the brainchild behind Myst 3 Exile. They said, why don't we get an orchestra together, have them do video game covers, and we'll take it all around the country. They did Seattle and Vancouver, and then they canceled.
Just rioting at all the concerts from video game nerds upset about their rendition of the songs from Final Fantasy VII, forced them to cancel it.
It's funny, I've recently heard full symphonic versions of the Super Mario theme. I think the London Symphony Orchestra recorded it, and it sounds amazing. It's funny, like, realize how, like, touching and tender certain parts of the Super Mario theme are. I got all teary-eyed. Maybe it was just nostalgia, or maybe I just don't have a life.
You know, that just goes to show you that it has infiltrated the culture. Video game music has become something that is so respected and so well liked that, well, we have to present it in a classical sense, you know, in a classical form. I thought that was you know, pretty amazing to see that all come around full circle that way.
Well, I mean, music is it's the backdrop to, if not in the foreground of, movies, television, pretty much everything. And now you sort of see it becoming much more prominent in video games.
I mean, there's been certainly now dozens, if not hundreds of scores that have really changed the way we expect a game to sound. We've moved from synthesized sounds to live recordings. We approach it the same way that a film score is approached now.
So in the post-PS2 Xbox era, every game has to have a killer soundtrack now, otherwise, you're not competing.
The Halo soundtrack, no recognizable bands, artists, or anything like that, but it's friggin' awesome and it sells well on its own, and it's just game music. Halo 2, game music and bands. It sells like crazy. I mean, there's something going on here.
So the Halo 2 soundtrack, besides the actual music from the game, they have music inspired by the game. Incubus, you got Hoobastank, you got cool guys like that, and that helps you later on when you're trying to, play it in your home stereo or in your car and, just kind of get that Halo feel.
Back in the day when there was a video game, you would turn the volume down on the video game and you put in your favorite album and you pump it up. Nowadays, they got your favorite bands and artists right on the game ready to go.
What you had was when people started realizing that soundtracks were the in thing for video games, you had famous names composing the soundtracks.
Danny Elfman did the soundtrack to Fable. Angelo Badalamenti, who did Lost Highway, he did a bunch of David Lynch movies. Yeah, he scored a game, Indigo Prophecy.
I was a big Nine Inch Nails fan, and I was a humongous Quake fan, and Trent Reznor did probably one of the best jobs in all seriousness with Quake. He did the sound effects and music for the game, and it went along perfectly with it.
Quake is a fast-moving first-person shooter, and someone like Trent Reznor, I can really see first-person shooting. So they went well together.
If we had music and games when we were growing up,
and if they had big artists making songs for the actual games, it would have been a whole different world.
a new wave was going on then. Can you imagine like Boy George? Came in and was like, now it's burger time, 'cause time makes burgers fall, till there's no bun at all. I wanna throw pickles at you. You know what I'm saying? Like burger.
Amazing.
The PS2 and the Xbox really opened the way for game publishers and music publishers to sort of make a pot of money through licensing of their songs.
So Madden 2005 had Hoobastank, but also have more modern bands like Mooney Suzuki that maybe you haven't heard of so much, or The Hives, which a lot of people have heard of, or Franz Ferdinand, which seems to be kind of like the new video game music darling. They've been on tons of soundtracks this year.
The music labels are thinking to themselves, how else can we reach these kids? I mean, we can sell the CDs, we can, there's music online, but you put music in video games, it's gonna get out there, it's gonna spread, and people are gonna talk.
55% of the people that were in a recent survey said that the first time they heard about a band, 55% was through a video game. So has it changed the way music is heard? Absolutely.
I remember the first time I ever heard the band Alkaline Trio was in a Tony Hawk game. I probably bought a couple albums after I heard them on Tony Hawk, so I guess it worked.
Activision saw how popular the soundtrack plus Tony Hawk Syndrome was for PS1, and they brought it right over to the PlayStation 2.
And now the new games have tons of music from various artists, so skateboard posers can actually say they heard the names of the bands that they wear on their t-shirts.
Tony Hawk actually has now over 50 artists, so there's everything from Rancid to Ultramagnetic MCs. I mean, you got The Game in there. So pretty much they're covering the whole spectrum of music. How hot is it to see the Casualties and Doors on the same soundtrack? Go figure.
The fact that a game knows what's out there and what's going on, and not just like, oh, we're gonna get some major label band just because everybody else is. I think it's good that they know that there is an underground out there.